I'm very happy to see both old and new names in the registration. Today, we're going to talk about blockchain and the benefits of blockchain in government and the public sector. This EVC Talks is powered by the government of Catalonia. And before starting, I just wanted to give you a little bit brief introduction to the new names, new faces of what we're doing. So basically, we founded the European Blockchain Convention back in 2018 with the aim to connect the European blockchain ecosystem. Our headquarters are in Barcelona, and actually, I'm originally from Copenhagen, moved to Barcelona 7 years ago. I did not expect that Barcelona would bring so much tech and blockchain to my world, but that happened. So actually, we've also been collaborating with the government of Catalonia since 2018 in basically most of our events. So very exciting how we have been growing. I think it's quite clearly here. We started back in 2018, as I said, our first edition. We had 500 attendees. And in our next edition of the European Blockchain Convention, which will take place in December, we're expecting 2,500 attendees. So quite cool. The impact we're having in Europe. And something new I want to tell you is that we launched our blockchain school earlier this year, European Tech School. I'm sure my colleague will share a little link now in the chat. So it's cohort-based blockchain courses. Our professors represent many known companies such as Consensus, IBM, Bosch, and so on, Renault. So if you're looking for blockchain courses, please, have a look at our website. And so let's get started. As I said, today we're going to talk about the benefits of blockchain in government and the public sector. I have the honor of having Nena, Jamie, Joao, Daniel, and Almudena with me. Almudena is going to moderate the panel. So please, the stage is yours, Almudena.
Thank you very, very much. Very impressive what you've achieved and what you've done for the blockchain ecosystem in Europe. So congratulations. And I welcome you all to this panel today for this very, very exciting subject and topic of blockchain in the public sector with, basically the best of the speakers that we could have. So welcome also speakers and thank you for being here. I basically think we can divide what is being done in the blockchain sphere in the context of the public sector in everything that has to do with adoption in public services and the public sector administration, with the services that the public sector is providing to the citizens based on blockchain, but also everything that has to do with public policy, regulatory issues, and how to create the right ecosystem policy and regulatory wise to create a fruitful environment in Europe that allows companies to grow, to be developed, and to be competitive in this worldwide ecosystem. And also maybe the public contribution, the public policy, the public administration contribution to ecosystem building, fostering and helping startups, and creating public-private partnerships. And I think in our speakers have very vast experience in all of these three areas. So maybe I'm very, very interested to know about the real services and how the public policy, the public administration services can be improved with blockchain, and what are the real adoption and use cases that are being developed in the public sector to better serve the citizens. So maybe we can go for a round and then you can all say your vision and share with us your experience. But I know Daniel Marco is very strongly working on this. Welcome, Daniel, from the Generalitat de Catalunya, the government of Catalonia.
Hello.
Thank you for being here.
Almudena. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure for me on behalf of the government of Catalonia to be here and to support also this panel with Victoria and Daniel and the work that they are doing with the European Blockchain Convention. I am in charge of the Director General of Innovation and Digital Economy in the government of Catalonia, and it's within the Ministry of the Vice Presidents and Digital Policy. We are very proud that digital policy in the government of Catalonia are in the Vice President of the government, and we have an IT person managing that in the vice president of the government, and within that we call the digital strategy to develop Catalonia as a digital nation, we define and implement different national strategies in what we call digital advanced technologies in 5G, blockchain, artificial intelligence, and new space. Regarding blockchain, in 2018, we approved an agreement of the commitment of the government to implement blockchain and to define a strategy. And after a year of work with an interdepartmental working group, we defined our strategy in 2019. That was approved in July 2019, and start to implement this strategy that maybe later I can explain more details about that. But it's about talent, to retain and attract talent, boost innovation, define research and innovation, the adoption of the government as a motor of this innovation, and also creating a great ecosystem to grow companies and attract investments, and the promotion. Activities like today, that it's to show, to generate awareness. I think that is one of the important, relevant things that we are doing. And maybe later on, Almudena can explain more. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. I also know Nena Dokuzov is also working from the government of Slovenia and currently holding the presidency of the European Union. So you have a very, very important role to play in all this right now. And you also have interesting insights to share with us on this.
Yes, actually, thank you for the invitation. This is just the follow-up of our Blockchain Europe conference, because we have quite strong conference 2 weeks ago, European Blockchain Week, and there were many interesting things pointed out and talked, and and also I very much thank to EU Blockchain Convention to participate. We were very constructive, and we found out a lot of the things that we can do in common, and we also agreed that we need to follow up how to build that strong ecosystem in Europe. But maybe if I started 2017, we started to build that ecosystem, which was composed by stakeholders, which was government on one hand, and then academia, research companies that were at that time a lot of them, and also civil society, because the civil society was not aware of this, and we started to build the ecosystem. In 2018, we adopted a blockchain action plan. It was first a kind of strategic document, strategy that was adopted in any European country. So we adopted that blockchain action plan in 2019, and we identified the areas. Like you said at the beginning, we identified the regulatory challenges, we identified the financing challenges, we identified the knowledge transfer challenges, and also how to organize all this together. And definitely how to put blockchain and other advanced technologies in the heart of the digital transformation and development. Further, and then we started also to collaborate with European Blockchain Partnership, and within the partnership we developed European Blockchain Services Infrastructure, and also the services on blockchain, which are self-sovereign identity, which Joao will explain later more in detail, then diplomas on blockchain. We have now traceability use case and 3 more in the next years. So SME financing, asylum blockchain, and social security pass. And I hope that with this recovery and resilience plan, we will get even more of these early adopters use cases so that it can be used wider. But for the government, we found out actually 3 main areas for intervention. This is policy or regulatory, but for very specific cases. Now we know that we have financial or digital finance set of regulations discussed on the European level. Then we have, for example, consumer protection legislation that we are also going to take into account. Then the whole digital package we are transferring to our national legislation, and also the blockchain and AI and other advanced technologies will be very relevant for this. And I have to say that we are also preparing the strategy for digital transformation, where we will some kind of identify those advanced technologies, identify or define the use of them, define the convergence of that advanced technologies, and define how the knowledge can be transferred. Maybe I will address some things more in detail later, but for example, you were asking for the benefits of the public sector. The benefits can be maybe to better access of the companies to services of the public sector. Then we are going to develop digital identities of the companies that will enable once only principle. So a company will only once enter their data to one system, and they will be recognized to many other registered systems, and with only one entrance into that public systems. Then a reduction of administrative barriers. It is very important for the companies that they will be directly connected to e-services of the government, so they do not lose the time and the paper and the proofs of doing business and of financial liability and so on. Then legal settlements for better stability and the predictability of business environment, which we know. And for what is the most important, the people that work in the government raise their knowledge on that advanced technologies and on blockchain as well. I will probably explain later how we dealt with EPSI and how we started to open the node and everything like this, but maybe the others can speak about it later. Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. A very overarching presentation, touching many things. Basically, I think it's interesting that you refer to basically the new digital economy and how we're creating the basis for the next step of how we relate to each other, both public administration to companies, public administration to citizens, and citizens with companies through the administration, or with some of the administrative tasks like fiscal policy or fiscal actions and all these. So there are many, many different use cases basically that have to do purely with the services offered by the institutions, but also how all these stakeholders relate to each other. And I think in this sense, maybe going towards Joao Rodrigues, European Commission, thank you very much for joining. What I personally see is that the European institutions, the EU, is building, like a new framework to develop many sorts of relations, as I say, public-private. And this is creating the EBSI as an infrastructure, a European blockchain-based identity or self-sovereign identity framework with SIF, SSIF, and then maybe also a way to pay which is digital, such as the CBDC for the euro, the digital euro. So if you have these three pieces, infrastructure, identity, and a way to pay in a native digital way, you have a very big change in the way Europe can do business, and the internal market can be shaped in the future. And in that sense, I know you're working very, very strongly and very seriously on EBSI, and where you do not only create altogether the platform, but also directly use cases that go down to the citizenship, and where we can already try the benefits of this blockchain new way, if you want, with the citizens and the public services that we're providing to them. So I'm very excited to understand all this a bit better and having your insights.
So good afternoon from Brussels. Yes, indeed. I mean, Nena already stole my thunder because I think she explained quite well the work of the European blockchain services infrastructure. So it's a project actually with the member states. So we are working with all member states. We are creating the first public sector driven blockchain. So we are really deploying blockchain nodes in all member states, which will then support these services that you just mentioned. The first services, they relate to what we call the exchange of verifiable credentials. What does that mean? It means that governments issue a number of documents that we use in our daily lives. And these documents typically need to be verified for a certain purpose. I'm going to talk about the diploma use case because, as you know, it's something that all of us have, typically a paper-based diploma. And by transforming that paper-based diploma into a verifiable credential, supported by blockchain for the verification part, not the data itself, because of GDPR, we cannot, of course, start putting on chain the diplomas and your data on the blockchain, but we can use blockchain to create, for example, a trusted list of issuers of diplomas, so that it's for sure an authentic diploma. We can also support the signing of those diplomas by that institution, by the holder, when it's shown for verification to an employer or to a university. So if we look at blockchain, it's actually supporting real life services that relate a lot with this idea of the digital transformation, where we will no longer have paper documents, but we will carry in digital wallets documents that can be presented and verified for very, let's say, daily life situations. And the idea again is to combine the emergence of the digital wallet with blockchain and verifiable credentials. I think that's the kind of vertical where we are working today. One use case, as I said, is the diploma one. You can relate to that. Another one is on the social security with a posted worker. When he goes abroad, he takes a document that's called the PDA1. It means that he legally did this social security procedure, and then he can show it for verification. So we will expand to other areas. Payments could be one of them. We are not working on that for the moment. We are analyzing other areas. The first one is this idea of transforming documents into verifiable credentials that can be presented through wallets that are not actually produced or created by the Commission. They are created by the private sector, but they are interoperable because we are setting the standards. And that's what the government should do, set the standards so that the private sector can then develop the solutions. And therefore, we are working with the member states, with the private sector, and of course, doing this with all member states. So this is European-wide, and I believe it will have a great impact in our lives, hopefully.
I think really it's an amazing project. I also would invite everyone to check the EBSI website because there are many cases explained, and it's very easy to see the impact in terms of efficiency and user experience for the citizens, and the kind of benefit, aggregated benefit that we can have in having a more efficient public administration and more European, basically also less working on silos at national and regional level. So that's really, really amazing. And I also think it's very amazing and very, very positive for Europe, the collaboration between European institutions and national administrations, and also with the private sector. So it's a public-private cooperation, and it's very, very cool. So thank you very, very much for sharing that. And now maybe we zoom a bit up with Jamie Berryhill. Thank you very much for being here. OECD has done an amazing work also on these aspects of blockchain, analyzing all different initiatives and mapping them and bringing some system into the analysis of what it all means and what can we expect in the future out of all that. So thank you very much also for sharing all that knowledge today with us, Jamie.
Hi, thanks for having me. My name is Jamie Berryhill. I'm with the OECD's Observatory of Public Sector Innovation. And our team and a sister team that we work closely with, the Digital Government and Data Unit, have been studying the concept of blockchain for public sector transformation for a few years. So it's something that we're very interested in. There's still a tremendous amount of interest in the global community. We do try to take a bit of a global approach to how we view the subject. Although, as talked about here, Europe really, in the global sense, does seem to be farther out ahead and really starting to put together infrastructure and frameworks that are crossing borders, while other countries are often trying to figure out just how to kind of cross organizational silos. So it's really interesting to be here on this panel with Joao and Nena. So our work is really focused on kind of trying to analyze the trends we're seeing with blockchain. And we see and try to advocate for blockchain as one tool of many other tools that governments have kind of in their digital government toolbox, and trying to leverage that when it's most useful, when you can really take those characteristics of blockchain that make them interesting and special and apply them to specific public sector challenges. Some of the areas where we see the most interest or the kind of the cleanest fits. Number one for us, I think, and just as Joao was talking about, is really in credentialing. It's kind of, to us, we think it's the cleanest cut. It's the easiest to go after, and it really also often has kind of we'll talk about challenges later, I think, but a lot of the challenges with blockchain projects have to do with vested interests, and you can really kind of get into the credential space without having to compete with as many vested interests in other use cases. Other good fits, I think, are that we're seeing are government records and ensuring trust through data integrity using blockchain. Estonia is kind of the star example in this, how they manage government records using a distributed ledger system, but then also backing up critical records into other countries like Luxembourg through their data MC program that helps ensure continuity of those things and monitors to make sure that everything is kept aligned and unchanged using distributed ledger systems. Also things like land title registry and supply chain management and logistics, smart contracts to streamline processes are all big use cases that we're seeing a lot of pilots and a lot of tests in, and different levels of success in those projects. That we'll talk a bit about more later. And then we also really love the underpinning of blockchain in that it allows citizens to really own and take control of their data and provide kind of informed and determined access to their information on how they want to go about using it. We're also interested in digital identity. We're doing a lot of work in that area, especially with our digital government team. I think it's a bit of a trickier use case. There's a lot more variables going on. I think Europe's kind of leading the way there, but we're seeing how things pan out in other countries. Really excited to see how things continue to unfold.
Wow, thank you very, very much. Very broad views as well. Maybe I also would share a project funded by the European Commission called Diversities, where we as Blockchain Intelligence are partnered together with other 25. Also public-private partnership completely, because the consortium is very, very broad and has public and private and universities and all sorts of partners to reduce CO2 emissions in cities in Europe. There are 5 cities that are working on this with us using a blockchain platform and also engaging citizenship into that through tokenization. So we just started, but it's one project which is European and but also going down to the local level, because it's engaging the cities and but also touching base with the ultimate addressees of the product, which are the citizens. And I think blockchain is ideal for this, connecting different partners through transparent applications and bringing trust, as you said, Jamie, and maybe bringing back some of the trust that some generations or some buckets of the citizenship have somehow a bit lost. in certain countries, in certain areas. So this is also a very, very interesting thing. But now we've seen, I think, very correctly, because we should start with a positive thing, which is how what are we getting out of this, and why is this so important, and why is the public sector investing so much? But I would also like to hear from you, what are the barriers, what are the challenges, where do you think we should be focusing to make this really work on the short, medium, and long run? And I don't know if any of you want to address this, but well, I know from our previous conversations, maybe Daniel was ready to speak up on this.
Okay, Almudena, thank you. Yes, I think that there are a lot of challenges because blockchain, it's a technology, a quite emerging technology that will change really a lot the way we are doing the things, at least in the public sector. And first of all, there is a need to understand really well what is this technology, how can be implemented, and what will be the impact on that. I think that we need a lot of training of public servants and a lot of identified capabilities within the public sector, because there are many experts on this field, but mainly are in the private sector, or in startups or in research centers, but very few that are in the public sector. We are reaching some of them, and we are training, but this is a very huge change and needs to be understood by many others, for the lawyers, from the decisors, from the different parts of the organization of the public servants. Also, there is a need in the public sector to define projects with long-term deployment. And this is, I think, also a challenge, because this technology is changing very fast. And when we are learning about a way to do a thing, technicians and other experts tell, yeah, but this is what we were talking 3 years ago, and we start to implement it now. And then we are now talking about new things. And this is quite difficult, because the agility, the speed of implementation of this kind of projects in the government, it's we can test, we can innovate in a proof of concept, but if we really want to change the processes, the relationship that we have with our citizens, we need to have long-term technology and a stability on these areas. And also there are more technical issues about the variable cost of this technology right now that is very volatile. And I think that all these challenges will be reaching with the maturity of the technology, or the maturity of the ecosystem to work on that. And then there will be some big challenges about the regulatory environment. Joao was talking about the personal data, no? About we have the GDPR and some regulatory environments that needs to also be fit with this technology. And maybe we need to change some of these regulatory environments, because right now the technology provides an availability with the technology itself can solve problems that, or can solve things that we are in the law, and then like security, immutability, and access to the right person, to the right data. A lot of challenges, but also very nice work, because we like to work with challenges and going step by step. I think that it's a huge commitment in different countries to work in this field and work together. And this is very, very relevant, no? European blockchain services for infrastructure, it's I think it's a goal for all the countries. For us, we are waiting also to have in place such technologies, because this will provide us this environment stable for long-term projects.
Thank you very, very much. Jamie, I also know you in the framework of your research looked at these things. And maybe also if you can give us a thought, or your thoughts about, the effect of this decentralized mentality or decentralized approach that goes with blockchain, that maybe makes it somehow hard to mix with the traditional mentality, which is more centralized, hierarchical, and it maybe brings a change of mindset with it, which is a bit challenging as well. What are your views on the whole thing?
Sure. So I think in terms of government approaches to blockchain, I think that we've seen some things that are positive factors and something that are negative factors or challenges for government use of blockchain. I think one of the challenges that we see is oftentimes, especially talking about emerging technology like blockchain, we see similar things with AI. The governments don't take a really problem-oriented approach to using a technology. Instead of like finding problems and then backing into which solutions would best address those problems, we oftentimes will see governments really wanting to test out blockchain, and that's their idea, and then they kind of go out looking for issues. So we really try to emphasize approaching blockchain or other technologies based on the fit for the technology. So we try to promote it for like at a baseline, it's viable. So blockchain works with a specific approach, that it's valuable, that blockchain adds an element that other traditional database or other type of ledger would add, that provides an added value to a service or a product, and that it's vital, and that so blockchain provides a specific element that other technologies don't in the public sector. So whether it's distributed, whether it's immutable, or other things that blockchain is trying to lend that a more traditional and oftentimes less experimental or more certain technology could offer. And in particular, we also did an analysis of what we saw as successful blockchain projects. Which we define successful as that they moved beyond a small pilot and gained a real user base. And we detailed this in a report we put out not long ago called The Uncertain Promise of Blockchain for Government, that we tried to understand why 3 years ago we put out a report saying blockchain is going to be really big and there's a lot of hype behind it, and then we weren't really seeing a lot of things take off. So we tried to understand this and found a handful of success factors and a handful of non-success factors or factors that contributed to failure. And some of these just factors that contributed to failure were things like pursuing disruptiveness. So trying to pick up these complex projects right off the bat instead of going for more simplistic efforts. Limited scalability, so not thinking about how this would scale up to connect with other systems or connect with in other contexts upfront, and trying to figure that out after you're already kind of embedded in pilot. And then also legal and regulatory uncertainty. I think as several people have touched on already, a lot of people would start a project and get to a point and realize that the regulatory and legal landscape was gray, and then people would interpret that in all sorts of different ways that really limited what they could do with the project. These things are, these projects, partners and teams that are building these projects have a varied amount of control over. They can pick more simplistic pilots, for example, for that aren't as disruptive, but then there's kind of governments that really need to make some clarifying efforts in clarifying the regulatory landscape. Some additional success factors we found that were important, I think, are having a really clear value proposal for blockchain, choosing appropriate technology, kind of as I've already talked about, constant stakeholder management inside and outside government, maintaining a user focus instead of just really wanting to build a blockchain system and having a really great idea, making sure that you're involving the people that the policies and benefits will affect involved in that process. And then also just small scale experimentation and trying out different things and accepting that if it doesn't work, that's fine, but we should document it and learn from it. Because we see a lot of press releases about pilots launching, but when we went to do this work, most of the projects we had saw before were gone, but there was never really kind of a closure on that. So what didn't work? What can we learn from? And trying to build in some learning loops on those types of things. And then finally, I think an important thing is that governments aren't always going to have like blockchain coders in the public sector that are going to be building these things. So we should be reinforcing ways that they have the capacities to engage with private sector external stakeholders, whether through procurement or partnerships, and build up those capacities in managing these types of projects and working with these different actors in the ecosystem. In terms of, I'm sorry, I forgot the second part of the question.
No, it was you're addressing it. I was mentioning the difficulty of decentralization versus the centralized mentality, but altogether the challenges. What do you think? It's more challenging, but actually, I think you addressed. I don't know if there's something else that was missing.
I just suppose the perspective on decentralized versus centralized. I think a lot of the initial projects that governments will embark on aren't as decentralized. They're probably in kind of closed wall systems, and that's okay to be experimenting with those types of things before you really start to figure out how you would want to do something in a more decentralized way. And I think another aspect of it that's not about the decentralization debate is that a lot of arguments that governments here have to do with how blockchain is going to eliminate the need for trust and are going to make it so you don't have to rely on third-party mediaries. And I don't think that's what a lot of public service leaders and public servants, want or how they connect with it. So I think emphasizing things in governments about how you can use blockchain to enhance trust and enhance the things that you're doing in government by verifying data and mitigating misinformation and making sure the public's getting accurate data and things like that is a nice story to be telling to get governments more interested in uptaking and embracing the technology.
Oh, great. Actually, we worked from Blockchain Intelligence on a project to improve the capacity by central government to react to crisis situation, and how could we use internal resources, SME resources, basically that are in the nation or in our territory, that are not currently we're not so easy to very quickly mobilize them. And these type of structures where you can bring together in the platform and use the data of all the different parties are also very, very interesting cases to explore and bring more flexibility to the contracting structures, while keeping the accountability and the transparency throughout the process. So what I mean, and this is maybe the question for you, we see in the private sector that we have like two speeds for blockchain implementation. We have same models done in a more efficient way, and then we have new business models. And maybe the question is, have you identified, or what are the cases where you see, okay, we can do things better because we have more control of the process, because we have more information, because we have more parties linked, whatever. It's the same service done in a more efficient way. And where do you see a new age for public services? And maybe also linked to that, how are we supposed to be creative or create a creative mindset within the public administration to be able to go through this ideation process in identifying new ways to serve citizens through public services? Maybe, I don't know if Nena or Joao, Nena, maybe you want to address this one, and then Joao also would be interesting the European Commission's views on this as well. You're muted right now. You're muted, Nena?
I will unmute. Sorry. Actually, you are talking about how the innovation can have an impact on transformation. We were facing this now. For example, we had one call for projects. It was called demo pilots, and we prescribed that the companies have to use the technologies such as AI, blockchain, IoT, and so on. And we had some kind of double dilemma, either to maybe to introduce the technologies to existing processes to make them more efficient, or to introduce the complete new technology and the innovation. And the question is very relevant, because if you use the technology that will transform the process, then you have transformed everything. And it is the same in companies, and it is the same in the government. At the moment when you put the new technology into service, you need to do the whole spectrum of education, of raising awareness, of I don't know, advocating why that technology can have a positive impact on efficiency and effectiveness and progress and everything like this. But once when you test it and when you see that the test is efficient, and I will explain the story about NFT later on, because we launched NFT for the companies and the promotion of the tourism. But the first contact of the government was the contact with NFT. And when they saw that the process was very fast, when we wanted to open the wallet, when we wanted to get into that NFT concept, and when we wanted to see the picture or 3D installation or through this, then they found out how beneficial and how fast technology can be. So they need to use this. For example, in our digital strategy, we assumed three stages of the process. The first stage was how was integrating the new technologies into the existing process, because this is the fastest way of getting for upskilling, for getting more knowledge, and for getting familiar with the technology. The second is, and we have another innovative issue, which is also very connected with what you said or explaining before. We decided to introduce innovative procurement. Innovative procurement is the concept that we know what service do we need, but we can just find or tender somebody that is providing that service in an innovative way. So we find the solution together with this company or with the SMEs or with startups. But we let SMEs and startups, innovative startups, into the public sector with the purpose to enhance their innovative potential as well. So we are all learning. We are learning from them, from that innovative concepts, and they are learning how to transform that innovations that have been developed by their side to the public administration process. And these two, if we match these two together, I think that we can have a great success and very very efficient way of selection of the implementing organizations of the companies and everything like this. So the creative mindset can be changed through the cooperation in the process of the development of certain public services, definitely. Then for decentralization and centralized management, we know that we need to avoid that central point of failure. And if the state concentrates all the information in one chain or value chain or line, then we have really a risk of single point of failure. So the distributed concept can be very valuable here. For example, yesterday we had one huge event on IPSE. This is European a project of the common European interest. And we are contributing to this European common data and services infrastructure. And what was realized, even that legacy companies, IT companies, telecoms, and everything that is traditional from the business, they realized that maybe the centralization would not be so beneficial, but the distributed systems, which we already are familiar with them through the blockchain, maybe be very helpful also for the other concepts, for example, for data management, for big data, for data spaces that we want to deal with them. So here is then the question of the convergence of the technology. How can blockchain support certain IT or digital solutions, which are traditional one, classical one, or even advanced, but how to use the blockchain as a tool to support all those technologies and back them up so that we can really have that optimal use of distributed data, of distributed economy and distributed platforms and systems to be accessible one with each other. What I think is that here blockchain has enormous potential to do this. Just it's sometimes it's very difficult to explain what blockchain is and we are still facing that issue that we starting from the beginning all the time. When you manage to educate a group of people, then there is another group of people that you want to include, but you need to start from the beginning and explain what blockchain is, how it is supposed to be used, and everything like this. Yeah, and the third thing is maybe how to attract the public administration. I think that we just need to convince or showcase what is the what are the benefits of blockchain technology. For example, we were thinking about how to use this technology in traceability of European funding. We know that within European funding, there are very long procedures on the national level because they are very bureaucratic. And with the blockchain, we can really shorten the period of controls, of verification of documents, of verification of authentication of the documents that we receive as a proofs of the costs, for example. And this can be very strong drive to use blockchain and have the access to data and the traceability, because that traceability issue is very important within all European projects. So this would be simplification for the companies that are applicants for the projects, and also a flexibility for the public administrators, for auditors, to have easier work here and short in that can react in very short times to be even more efficient. Yeah, I talk too much.
No, very, very interesting also, because I think it goes down to real examples, and then it helps understanding the real impact. Joao, what are your views on this?
Yeah, I'm just going to try to stitch together some of the ideas that were discussed here. And I believe that the word verification is quite important, because governments have been struggling with the challenge of verification. And this is why you many times have to have some sort of intermediary, right, to support that verification. Is this document authentic? You need an intermediary in the middle of two entities, right? That's typically the case. How you ensure that there is trust between two entities that don't know each other and need somehow to do a transaction, right? And you put government in the middle, and government ensures trust. So if I give you this document and it was issued by this entity, you should trust it, right? So I'm claiming who I am, that's your identity, or I work in this field and this is my diploma and all these things. So that's fine, right? What we are seeing now is that blockchain is actually a great technology to support these verification processes without necessarily having intermediaries in between. And I think that's the message that we have been trying to pass for governments that are watching us, or others that are watching us, is to say, well, it's true. Because of verification, I have to have all these different entities in the middle, but eventually this technology can support verification without all these intermediaries. And this is what is driving, I believe, a lot of sectors towards blockchain, including governments. Now,
may I interrupt you for a second, because I think there is a question from the audience, and I use the opportunity to also invite others to make more questions that I think is very linked to this concept. The question says, do governments and public institutions worry that blockchain may alter or reduce the power of the public sector? Is this, I understand it as, is this verification, simplification of verification processes also taking out some power, and is there some thoughts?
I personally, okay, but I have to be optimistic, otherwise I would not be here. I personally don't believe so. The main challenge is that once you say, okay, we can do verification in a different way, then you're, for example, like Jamie was saying, let's choose this idea of verifiable credentials, right? The government does not lose power. Why? You are still the issuer. You are still the issuer. The government is the issuer. There is no change there. What changes is actually the verification. And the verifier typically is not the government. So the government retains the power because government continues to be the issuer of that same document. What will change is that the verification can now be done in an automated way and also in a much more secure way, so that you know that this person is actually the holder, it was issued by that entity at that moment in time. So all these control points can be supported by blockchain. What I was wanting to say is that why is the European Commission involved in all this, right? That's the question mark. Is because, of course, once you enter, even in verifiable credentials, and you want to start a project in verifiable credentials, you will be confronted with standards. And what does that mean? It means that there will not be one standard for you. And even if there is one, like W3C verifiable credentials, there is a multitude of choices that will make your, let's say, life very, very hard. So what will help in the European Commission, of course, is to be the convener, is to work with the member states in deciding and making these important decisions, right? What will be, the verifiable credential that we will create, that then will be verified. So you need the standards so that the private sector can create the wallets to have those verifiable credentials and the verifiers to have the tools to verify them, to create the ecosystem. Without standards, everyone will be needing to reinvent the wheel over and over and over again. So I would say that you probably have a verification issue. You probably are solving it in a way that could be supported by blockchain. So think about this. But when doing this, you will understand that one major challenge, and for governments this is a major challenge, is the standards, because there are a multitude of choices, and what is important is to find really, the right, I would say, group to define those. This is why the Commission is here with the member states to overcome these challenges, and we are working, as we said, in already quite some areas. So probably have a look at what we are doing with the European Blockchain Services Infrastructure. I think it's a good starting point.
Yeah, I think with that you answered another question that we have on the table from the audience, which is government institutions are usually trusted bodies. Why blockchain then? But I don't know. I think this was the answer, but maybe you want to add something.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the document will be issued, but by being issued as a verifiable credential, what will happen is that it will be issued to a wallet, a personal wallet, a digital wallet on your phone, right? That can then be presented to a verifier that will be able to confirm that the issuer of that document was indeed a public institution somewhere else. It doesn't really need to, but he will be sure that the document was created on a certain day, at a certain time, by a certain entity, and eventually, depending on the choices, to a certain individual. And the individual, because of this idea of decentralized identifiers, does not need to be identified. It's just an identifier, it's not the identity of the person, and that's a big discussion there about these decentralized identifiers. But this is possible, and I cannot explain, of course, what actually, everything that I said means technically, but as I said, everything is online, and we can continue this discussion in more detail if you contact us, because we can also, let's say, get in touch online.
Almudena, can I add something?
Please.
I totally agree with what we're saying, and the audience says about the role of the government, but we must maintain this role. But this is a technology that can provide the ability to do it in another way. The purpose of the government is to provide a better service for our citizens, and maybe we can put our resources to give these other services and not in this administrative area. I think that blockchain provides a tool to empower our citizens, and this is at least in Catalonia what we have in mind when we want to use this technology. Not only to be more efficient, also to provide really tools, digital tools, to empower them to make a relationship with the government, but also the relationship which with other companies and services. I think that self-sovereign digital identity will be a very, very strong tool to do that. But also, for example, we have a project that it's they provide the tool, no, with blockchain to the cities to empower them to share their own healthcare data for research purposes, because we are the owner. They are the owners of their health data, but we are the custodian on that. We have the data, but we cannot share this data because it's from you. But you have the availability, and there is a technology that provides you a tool to, if I have one research center, another, or a campaign that is available, I can share this data, and this can be reflected also in other areas. Also, another example, it's in the energy sector. For example, we have a project that it's the different buildings that have solar production. They can exchange, no, the consumption and the production each other, and you have a tokenization of this balance that can be done. Here are some regulatory things that needs to be changed, but at the end, it's providing tools to generate a new way of transactions or a new way of economy, because at the end, I can have a bigger roof and exchange the solar power that I am producing. These are, I think, one of the main focus for the next future is how we can empower citizens and companies, because also companies and SMEs can have also very, very strong role on that.
Almudena, I agree with you, but I think sometimes when we discuss this as governments, and I'm not really, let's say I'm the European Commission, so I'm, as I explained more, the convener of the member states, it's important to explain that the data will not be on chain. So we are not putting...
No. You can provide the access or not to the data that will be in the, at least in our case, in our systems. But the law allows the citizens to have their own data. They can put a link in Catalonia and you can download all your healthcare data, and you can exchange that. And together with this, we must provide the information to the citizens to know what is this data and how to share it, because we are sharing a lot of data in other platforms without knowing that. But this is with a very good purpose, for example, to save lives. And then, but there is a new wave to empower the citizens to know what are the information, to know what are the power that they have with this information. But I am agree with you that they will not have in their phone all the data together, because this is
and especially also very important that they will not have on chain, on a blockchain, their data.
No.
Will stay in the trusted register. What is on the blockchain is metadata that is typically never personal data, and that allows the verification of the data or the access to the data, but it's typically information that supports that verification, so that you can get the result, yes, no, you can access, or yes, no, this is, a trusted document or not. It's important to pass this message, because sometimes we get a lot of questions about GDPR, of course, because of mutability. So if you're putting my healthcare records, I not have the right of being forgotten. This is absolutely madness. No, it's not that the governments are doing, of course. Everything is, and this is, we are also there because of that, inside of the global GDPR framework, and we are extremely careful, and I'm sure in Catalonia is the same, to respect, of course, data privacy, but to empower, as you said, the citizens.
Here, maybe we can explain also one thing, that the EPSI follows the concept that you do not put on blockchain the data that you don't want to put on. So eIDAS is fully respected, but you can make available your own data if you want to do this. Okay, nobody stops you. And the data is available on chain, but you can decide how to protect it and what amount of data you will put on, and you can evaluate also that data that you put on chain. Okay, the data can be on chain and off chain. In any case, you are the one that you are evaluating this data that you are putting on blockchain. This was quite a strict requirement from GDPR. So we, following that GDPR and to be in compliance with GDPR, we said, okay, set the strict amount of data that can be put on blockchain. But what I think that it would be important for governments, today we have e-government services, but e-government services are not 100% used, okay, or deployed by the citizens. So the motivation that citizens can have to use maybe more that e-government services with the blockchain technology, because it is so-called trusted-based technology. And exactly for that verification issue, that when they see that nobody else is confirming their data, but the machine does it, then it would be easier to put the data on chain, to manipulate with that data, to transfer it, and to evaluate the data as it is. So maybe this is the way out to integrate that blockchain technology to public services, to increase the use of public services as such, not only to become familiar how technology can be used, but in any case, if this is objective and independent verification, then this can be a motivating factor for the citizens. And I think that this is the most important here, that we can trust to the technology. Okay, we can face cybersecurity issues and hacking issues and everything, but we can face it everywhere. So if one technology offers us that characteristics, then it can be communicated in this way, that it guarantees that security, the trust, and no intermediaries, and that should maybe increase the use of public services.
Maybe I just add one thing very quickly here, because if people that are watching don't think that verification is an issue, just think how long some things take, simple things, just because of verification. Just start adding the time, and you understand that verification is still very much as it was, I mean, like 10 years ago. And
you can add automation on that.
Challenging. Exactly.
Yeah, and then you have verification, automation, and things are used. Things happens, and the administration reacts. And this is not, right now is not like this.
Exactly.
You need to ask. You need to ask the administration. Here, not. Things happen, and administration reacts. It's more proactive, also services.
Yeah.
And maybe also the administration stops working in silos, because right now, every administration works for itself, and maybe the communication between different parts of the administration also sometimes doesn't work that well. There have been some exchanges and questions in the chat, but actually I think most of the issues were covered. It was about trust, and why should we trust more blockchain than a public service. But then this was answered by you, I think, by far, and and all this meaning. No, but I would, maybe we're out of time, so unless any of you want to have a final word, I would start wrapping up. I don't know if Jamie, you want to say something about what we've been talking about, or.
No, I mean, I think that the other that Nena and Joao and Daniel really nailed the discussion. So I don't have anything to add to that, but just thank you all.
Excellent. I see Victoria as well, but maybe around all this, latest discussion, I think it is very important also to value the work of the European Union to keep the citizens' rights on all this, in the construction of EBSI, of digital identity, and also of the digital euro. And this is a center question that is being taken very, very seriously. And it's very important in the way we are, as a region, competing in this technological new world with other regions of the world, and maybe the geopolitics that go with that. And this is maybe for another discussion, but I think we can be proud of the way this has all started, but we need to keep an eye on the way this finishes and it's actually constructed to make sure that citizens' rights and citizens' privacy is ensured in the construction of all these technological new services and applications. I think we need to finish. For me, it's been great fun and such a pleasure to listen to all of you. Everything was very insightful, and I think we learned a lot, and we are much more aligned with this new wave of public administration, digital administration, and how it will serve citizens ultimately. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you very much to the five of you. Very exciting to understand better what you're doing within the Catalan government, within the Slovenian government, within the European Commission, within OECD, and also to see how European governments can collaborate with the European Commission. Very, very exciting conversation. I guess we all agree this is still day one, right? So much to be done with blockchain in the public space and in blockchain in general. So I think it's very exciting that all of you were part of this journey. And I think, well, we can only continue this journey. So thank you so much to the five of you. As you could see, the chat was getting hot towards the end. But yeah, we have to finish now. But you'll see these five people around again in our event. So don't you worry, we can continue the conversation. Thank you so much to everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.